Hey, if you're worried about spoilers for this season, I legitimately think you shouldn't be. Yeah, I talk about literally everything in Season 4, but I don't think Season 4 is worth watching, so do with that what you will.
Hey, wait, where'd my mustache go? No, it was just here. Where did it go? Oh god, didn't you just talk about Community? Well, I'm doing it again. If you don't know what Community is, in a nutshell, it's about a group of quirky weirdos in a community college being quirky.
This group includes Jeff, the snarky straight man, Britta, the screw-up weirdo anarchist, Troy, the lovable oaf who really is pretty stupid, Shirley, the Christian Mothers who is also a bit of a badass, Pierce, the guy who is old, Annie, the neurotic perfectionist, and Abed, the autistic, TV-loving heart of the show. There's also the pervert Dean Pelton and a legitimately mentally ill man, Ben Chang. Season 4 has been talked to death on YouTube, and pretty much everyone agrees that it is the worst season of Community. I mean, I found some people on IMDb that said they liked it, but that doesn't count. Those people aren't real.
What is going on?
And there are legitimate reasons for the season being this bad. After Season 3, showrunner Dan Harmon was fired for a variety of reasons that range from pretty valid to kinda ridiculous, and he was replaced with a pair of new showrunners, David Guarascio and Moses Port, who for the rest of this review I'm just gonna be calling Davey and Port because they will be mentioned quite a bit. And if you're wondering, are they a pair of creatives like Dan Harmon? One of their projects is a show called Aliens in America, which is about a kid ordering a foreign exchange student to come to America to be their friend.
What?
But they're upset that it's a Pakistani kid, and then the rest of the show is just shitting on Pakistani and Muslim people.
When the original host family learned that a Pakistani Muslim was coming, they were understandably concerned.
So, the guys that made this got handed the reins to one of the most creatively praised TV shows in all of history. And I wouldn't say they crashed the show, I'd say they more steered it off the Grand Canyon. Aside from the writing just being overall worse, they seem to really want to reinvent characters or regress them into earlier versions of that character for the sake of conflict.
But is the season bad? Yes, of course it is, but I think the shittiness of this season is overstated. Mostly because it follows what many people consider to be the best season of Community.
So I just want to go episode through episode and talk about the things that are bad, but also the things that aren't so bad. So, elephant in the room here. I already made a video about Season 4. Oh, if you want to skip this part, go to this timestamp to get to the actual video. So, why am I remaking this? The first reason is because I think the old video is just overall bad. The visuals are clunky, the audio is shitty, but cuts are jarring, and the editing just kind of sucks. But the script is pretty decent compared to other stuff I was writing at the time. So I thought, why do my criticisms of this season have to hide in this poorly put together pile of garbage? The second reason is genuinely some of my opinions on the season have changed. And the third reason is a secret, but it is also the main reason I am remaking this video. But you don't need to know anything about that. Let's go!
It's a rare condition this day and age to read it.
By Community standards, it's a pretty bad season opener, which is a bad omen for things to come. But by regular TV standards, it's decent. Basically what happens is Abed is scared of change, so he makes an imaginary sitcom world in his head, where they live at Greendale forever. Which is strange, because Community is already a sitcom parody in itself. This homage just doesn't feel as natural as the homages from earlier seasons. It just doesn't have the chutzpah of those Dan Harmon episodes. Also, Pierce is replaced with Fred Lillard in the imaginary sitcom world. What a funny bit. I wonder if they'll have other funny bits that cut out Pierce. Jeff has seemingly reinvented himself between seasons and says he's become a better person. And at the end of the episode, after a bunch of plot shit happens, he sacrifices the red balls he's been saving up for the group to help fix Abed's brain. So this really does indicate this is a new Jeff. He has improved as a person. Lock that away in your brain for later.
Write that shit down.
I mean, It's fine. When Annie and Shirley are pranking Vadine for reasons, they use this contrived sitcom trope with no spin on it. Also, why would Vadine hide his keys? Wouldn't he have them on his person? Why did this plot happen if it's gonna mean nothing for the rest of the episode? When Abed's brain is breaking, the Jeff in his brain gives him an inspirational speech, but the real Jeff doesn't say anything, so the conflict of the story was really nothing. Because the whole time, Abed could have just told himself everything would be fine, which he basically did. Also, Vadine moves in beside Jeff. Lock that away in your brain as well.
You write that
I've decided I'm also going to rate every episode. 6 out of 10.
Basically, Pierce locks himself in a panic room at his house, a haunted house homage happens, and uh-oh, Pierce was just pranking the group like he does all the time. Also, Gustavo Fring is here. It's better than episode 1, but it still only barely passes the line to good. I mean, the haunted house homage is decent, and this background gag is funny, but that's really all I can compliment the episode on without just throwing out individual funny lines.
Why does it have so many collars? Secret dogs.
But now I can correct something in my old video, which was
You're telling me after opening up once with Britta, he's finally ready to contact his father. Bullshit.
But this isn't true because Jeff calls his dad not only after talking to Britta, but also after seeing how broken of a person Pierce is. So it's not as contrived as I thought, but it still is pretty forced.
6.5 out of 10.
Don't turn your back, don't look away, and don't blink.
This episode is really bad. They basically go to a Doctor Who ripoff convention where Abed finds a new friend and Troy gets all girly with him.
Not funny.
Also, Annie pretends to be married to Jeff and Jeff finds out about it and doesn't care. He just doesn't pursue it. This guy? Now you can chalk this up to being new Jeff, but later in the season, that new Jeff deteriorates. So what's the point? Really, the only funny moments in this episode come from Pierce, where in this scene, Jeff says bow before Firaxis, and everyone bows, but Pierce just lays on the ground. And also the ending scene where we see the shitty American version of Inspector Spacetime that Pierce heavily influenced is funny. Still a bad episode, 4 out of 10.
Meine Mama hat mir einfach erlaubt, dass ich Cola trinken darf. Wie cool ist das bitte?
It seems like every time an episode gets to a finish line of almost being funny, instead of crossing it, they shoot themselves in the fucking head. Basically, the Germans from season 3 come back, but oh no, Davy and Port couldn't get Nick Kroll to come back to play the main guy, so they have this dude instead. Also, they make him weirdly Nazi-coded, which is a choice. Anyways, the Germans try to steal the study room, hijinks happen, the study group gets the room back, but uh-oh, everyone hates them now. So they realize they suck and fix a few things around Greendale, which I guess makes everyone forgive them.
Okay, a few things. First, this episode introduces us to the teacher for this season, Professor Cornwallis. Previous teachers have included Senior fucking Chang, one of the most iconic characters in all of Community and maybe all of TV, Ian Duncan, my personal favorite side character, and Kane, who wasn't used much, but when he was used, he was cool as hell. Oh man, I wonder what silly characteristics Cornwallis has. He's a disgraced Oxford professor who was kicked out of the school for sexual harassment.
What the fuck?
Yeah, this guy sucks. Anyways, speaking of Chang, he's back!
I'll talk more about this in a few episodes, but Chang claims to have a memory loss disorder, he calls it Changnesia, obviously, and thinks he's named Kevin. Now this is stupid, obviously, but it's not the worst way to bring him back when he literally tried to blow up the school last season, so it's okay. Greendale being mad at the study group is pretty funny, but that funniness turns to pointlessness when they forgive the group after they fix, what, a few things around the school?
Like, there really was no point. Also, Pierce wants to be the Hitler of the group because evidently Chevy Chase is being such an asshole on the set that the only outlet the crew have for their rage is to make Pierce the worst character. This episode is fine compared to other stuff in the season.
5 out of 10. This is the biggest mixed bag I've ever seen in an episode of Community. Basically, it's a Thanksgiving episode. These 4 go to Shirley's and do a Shawshank homage, and these 2 go to Jeff's dad's house for Thanksgiving. I'm gonna give this episode a compliment sandwich. Positive. Willie Jr. is a pretty fucking funny character. This actor is so good at being a whiny little bitch, and it really is just funny. Good job.
Negative. Why did Abed dig a hole in Shirley's wall? I mean, I know why. It's because it happened in the media, and when the fans see a reference to the media, they all go, yeah! But this seems extremely inconsiderate by Abed. Like, this is something he'd do in season 1.
Positive. The Shawshank homage is pretty funny. Barring the hole, it's probably the best homage they've been able to do all season. Nowhere near as good as when these two weren't directing the show, but it's still nice. Negative. Britta needs to shut the fuck up. The only joke they wrote for her is that she misdiagnoses Jeff and pretends to be a therapist. Two jokes that aren't funny and become even less so when they're repeated over and over and over and... Positive. This line is pretty funny, I guess.
Julie, we were just...
About to...
Eat garbage dip. Why did I have to go third?
Yeah, that's all I got for you. Negative. Once again, they have decided to make Pierce the worst, most racist person in the world because Chevy Chase is being an asshole on set, and it really pisses me off. Like, stop! Positive. Jeff opening up to his dad on how broken he is genuinely emotional. Like, it's a good moment. I can't shake the feeling that Dan Harmon could have written this episode far better, but I digress. There are a lot of good and bad things in this episode, but overall it leans closer towards good. 5.5 out of 10. This episode isn't bad? I mean, I could make pedantic observations all day about how this little thing was bad or this shot doesn't line up, but genuinely, when you just watch the show, this episode is honestly good. The documentary episodes have always been some of my favorite episodes in Community, and I feel that the format really does carry this episode. The documentary revolves around the research into Changnesia and Jeff's attempts to prove Kevin a liar. Honestly, Kevin as a character is pretty mixed. It's not as funny as Chang, but it is kind of funny, specifically because every Ken Jeong character I've seen has been a crazy nut job, so to see him so reserved when I usually see him doing this shit is pretty funny. I mean, what more can I say? Jeff's descent into madness was good, and Pierce is being racist again, bada bing bada boom, and that's that. 7 out of 10. And we're back to the mediocre episode hour, starring this fucking guy. Vadine wants to get a rich kid burnout to go to Greendale to milk money out of him, so they have to convince him to enroll in school.
Also, Jeff hangs out with Pierce for plot reasons. And Shirley and Troy are doing this physical education class that Shirley is good at and Troy sucks ass at. First, it takes Archie 38 seconds to get off his moped and remove his helmet. Did he know he had to be slow for the plot to happen? Pierce and Jeff bonding is a pretty okay moment, but then Jeff tells the Dean and Annie, you know, Pierce is gonna be an asshole 98% of the time, but we should just deal with it. And personally, I think putting up with people for them to be nice only 2% of the time is a pretty raw deal. But that might just be me, because the Dean and Annie seem to agree. The Troy and Shirley storyline is not even worth mentioning. Like, I'm not gonna talk about it. And I don't care if they got rid of this guy after dedicating a whole episode to try to get him to enroll, because he is boring.
4 out of 10. You know, Vadine throwing a dance to throw it back to the good old days to distract from the water fountains being taken away is inadvertently a great metaphor for what the show is doing by making this episode. You'd think it would be intentional, but then I remember who's writing this shit.
Vadine and Britta have a dance off, but not how you think. They throw two separate dances, Vadine's being a Sadie Hawkins dance and Britta's being a Sophie B. Hawkins dance, because Britta forgot the name of Susan B. Anthony. Not bad.
Pierce stops being an asshole in this episode and is just a mix of incompetent and wise. But Abed, holy fuck! Abed says he wants to stop doing TV tropes, but then he gets 2 days to the dance and manipulates them by doing the 2 dates at one sitcom trope. He said the bitch just fell into his lap, which makes no fucking sense. God, leave Abed alone! Anything funny about Kevin just completely wilts away when he says, I have Changnesia 50 times.
Oh wow, Sophie B. Hawkins showed up. How the fuck did Pierce get Sophie B. Hawkins to show up? Did he tell her the plot called for it? Did this episode only happen because Sophie B. Hawkins wanted to be in an episode of Community? Pierce tells Jeff to stop being a dick to Britta, which is great because it seems they want emotional reconciliations at the end of every episode. But then the characters go back to being their shitty selves the moment the episode is done.
Troy trying to convince Abed that planning a dance is full of hijinks is pretty funny, but also only like 3 jokes. But this is still one of the better episodes, unlike our next contender. 6.5 out of 10. Holy shit! Like, oh my god! This sucks! Elephant in the room, they're using puppets. How cool! They must have a reason to be using them, like Abed's Unforgettable Christmas's use of stop-motion animation. No, the reason for puppets is because Vadine says they should use puppets, and Britta says puppet therapy.
The plot. Everyone in the group is all embarrassed and not looking at each other, inadvertently giving the worst episode of Community the worst cold open. Like, that doesn't necessarily make the cold open bad, it's just literally nothing is happening here. Hey, I don't make the rules, don't look at me!
The dean wants to help the group, so he gives them puppets. Why? Well, because puppet therapy. That's the reason they become puppets. Because Britta says puppet therapy. Why does Pelton have them? Well, because he's a pervert, of course! Man, this episode is awesome! So they become puppets and are talking about some shit. Troy and Abed are playing study group bingo. Pretty self-explanatory. And they mark down a square for Jeff saying stop 2 times.
Stop. Square. Okay, stop. Square.
That doesn't make any fucking sense.
So anyways, they start singing and Annie says the words hot air balloon. So they go to a hot air balloon. Let me just mention real quick that the singing here is so much worse than literally any time they do music. I really don't get it. I mean, I kinda get it. Oh no, they start flying away because they decide to throw away the support ropes and pull on the burner. How could this happen?
They then crash the balloon in the middle of the woods and meet a strange man who gives them berries that make them trip out. Whoa! So they start a fire while completely high, somehow. And Shirley tells them a secret. It's not important. But uh-oh, silly, they didn't even remember that Shirley told them a secret because they were all high off of berries. Everyone told a secret that night, and everyone thinks that the reason everyone else is quiet is because they're all shocked at their secret. Awesome! The conflict can be solved by just fucking talking to one another. So then everyone shares their secret and episode over. Now, you might ask, what are these secrets? But honestly, it's pointless to say because they're so minuscule, which makes the conflict in the episode even more nothing. But if you really want to know, well, Jeff dated a girl with a kid and got spooked and missed the kid's ball game and now feels like his dad. Britta has never voted. Annie got her feet rubbed by Cornwallis for an A. Troy started a 55-acre fire. Shirley left her kids in the grocery store because she thought she saw Andre with another woman. Pierce never had sex with Eartha Kitt. And Abed doesn't have a secret, cause why would he? This episode has literally 4 funny moments. Everything else is pointless. That means that something funny is actively happening only every 6 minutes or so. That's fucking insane. That sounds like my old videos. But I'm not a fucking comedy TV show! I could forgive the puppets if the puppet work was like phenomenal, but it's honestly just decent, so it's just so fucking pointless! 2 out of 10.
You know what they say, no rest for the weary, and I'm looking mighty tired. So the group has a Christmas party, they find out that they failed a group project, so Annie invites Cornwallis over, blah blah blah, Cornwallis gets tied up, blah blah blah, oh yay, we got for grade moved up to a C+. Sorry, this episode is just bad and a great indicator of how they fucked up every character. I mean, first and foremost, Pierce isn't here, that's a great indicator of how they sort of fucked with him. The reason they failed the assignment is because Jeff calculated that if he didn't do anything for his part of the group assignment, they'd still get a passing grade, so he just completely blew it off. Remember when I told you to lock away New Jeff in your brain? You didn't forget, did you? This is so indicative of how stupid the character changes are this season, because they're so inconsistent. This is something Jeff would do in like season 1 or 2, but no, he's doing it now, for conflict. Abed's role in this episode is to bitch and complain about how they aren't doing Die Hard and disconnect from reality.
This is the second of 2 episodes that Cornwallis is in, and honestly, I'm fine with that because as a character, I fucking hate him. They try to frame him as being this manipulative Bond villain, but I'm fully not buying it. And take out the other thing I told you to lock away, because the Dean living beside Jeff became relevant for once. And it's the only time in the season that is relevant. My god, this season fucking sucks! One more funny thing. In episode 4, Cornwallis says this.
Are you actually suggesting that a professor at Greendale would set up an elaborate ruse just to teach 7 students a lesson?
And now he's literally doing just that. Doing an elaborate ruse to teach 7 students history. 3.5 out of 10. Get me out of here!
Freaky ass. Friday. Fun, classic family movie about body switching. You might think I'm incapable of being positive, and while I'm questioning that myself, I can redeem it by saying this episode is actually really great. The plot is basically Freaky Friday shit happens, Troy and Abed switch bodies, Jeff is mad at just the whole situation, and Britta and Troy break up. Did you know that this episode was written by Jim Rash, who is not only the dean, but also an award-winning writer? It really seems like Jim writing this episode was some sort of Hail Mary by Daisy and Port to save the show, and it worked, but then they never used him again. It's so refreshing to see characters acting like themselves for once. Yeah, Jeff is all angry, but I can accept it given the situation. All Troy needs to tell Abed is some stuff about how they switch bodies, and Abed is immediately able to empathize with Troy.
It's great. Not much more for me to say here. The episode is all around fun and ends one of the worst, most polarizing storylines in all of Community, Troy and Britta. 8.5 out of 10. Such a nice episode after the shit show we just had to deal with. But you know how hurricanes have an eye in the middle? Well...
I don't like sand.
The story is basically about how the study group is all connected and how they were destined to meet. I guess. Not much more for me to talk about because it's all like a prequel. The prequel's stupid. Is that enough for you? Abed is once again being a bad friend here, failing to realize that maybe Shirley doesn't want to know that Jeff defended the stripper Andre had sex with. Okay, I finally have to mention this. The writers have been writing out Pierce in various ways. They did it 2 times this episode. But in the end, they need all the characters to be in the yogurt shop to fulfill this fucking prophecy. But Chevy Chase had stormed off set earlier in the day, so they get a fucking body double. After Pierce being written out or his role being diminished constantly throughout the season, it all culminates to this. Pretending Pierce is there, but just using someone who looks like him. That's beautiful.
Also, I forgot to write this in initially, but Chang was faking his Shangnesia this whole time and was gonna be evil with the city college guy, but talks to Abed and gets accepted by the group. Damn it, this episode sucks balls. 4 out of 10.
We finally figured out a way to make paintball cool again. We finally...
You know what? I'm done. I don't care anymore. Jeff is graduating, but he's scared to graduate because Charles Boyle offered him a job as a sleazy lawyer.
He tries to torment Abed about it, but oh no, he lets in evil Jeff from the darkest timeline. Hello, it's me, it's Evil Gug.
And evil Jeff is mean to everyone to make everyone hate normal Jeff, so normal Jeff isn't as scared of graduating. Again. I guess! Then Abed gets shot by Dimension Warping Paintball, and he gets sent to the evil dimension where he meets evil Abed, who was abandoned by Troy. That makes sense. It's not like Troy and Abed were good friends or anything.
Jeff finds out about evil Jeff and almost gets shot, but Chang takes the bullet for him. Cool. Also, the rest of the evil people are here, including evil Pierce, because evidently Chevy Chase wandered onto set, said 2 lines, and then evidently stormed off.
So they have an epic paintball battle. That's awesome. That's so cool. Oh, and this whole thing is an illusion in Jeff's head. Hell yeah, man.
Don't logic this one away from me. We finally figured out a way to make paintball cool again.
Yeah, they did. You hear that, guys? They finally found a way to make paintball cool again. So
hey, let me just sneak right past you quick. Wait, thank you.
Did you fucking see that? Jeff breaks out of the illusion and stops being a dick, and graduates alongside Pierce.
You know how I said in my season 5 video that the finale of that season sucked? This is probably the 2nd worst episode of all of Community. Oh my god. 3 out of 10. I can barely fucking process this. I'm just gonna go to the next
Usually I wouldn't talk about production, like, I didn't do that here, but there's just so much that went wrong with this season, and I have to talk about it.
So the big thing that I've already talked to death is Dan Harmon was kicked off the show for reasons and replaced by Davian Port. But then a bunch of people who were extremely important to the production of Community also left in protest. Executive producers Neil Goldman and Garrett Donovan, who both have characters named after them, and Dino
Stamatopoulos,
who not only is Starburns, but also helped a lot of external production factors with his company, Starburns Productions. Like, he made Abed's Unforgettable Christmas possible. And the damn Russo brothers also left.
A big reason why Dan Harmon left Community is because of this hilariously public feud with Chevy Chase, where Dan Harmon was made out to be the villain. But when the villain left the show and, things are still going bad, it turned out Chevy Chase was the villain the whole time.
Ooh, plot twist.
So initially the writers didn't really know how to write for Pierce, and during the documentary episode, Chevy Chase said a slur. Yeah, that one. And when everyone got pissed off at him, he stormed off set, which became quite the bad habit of his.
Though from many influential writers leaving to Chevy Chase deciding he wanted to start method acting, the season was completely doomed, and we can see that pretty damn clearly.
I mean, what can I say about this season? I've been talking about it for 30 minutes at this point. Seriously, what do you want me to say?
First half of the season was pretty good, but then it made a slow descent down, but then they put up out of that nosedive until this episode, where if you take the actual good episode out of the running, they had like an evil version of season 2's 13 episode run. I mean, when you add up the scores, it's still like a 5 out of 10. It's not an awful season of TV, but like, imagine your favorite TV show or piece of media comes back, but it's like a completely different show and none of the characters are acting normal, and also they all stop being funny. Like, this is the equivalent of that Megamind show. Do you get it now?
These 2 episodes are the only ones worth watching. It's just, this is the canonical season year. This is the canonical way Jeff meets his dad. This is Jeff's canonical graduation. This is it. Season 3 had so much stuff teed up. Chang at City College, Jeff's dad, Starburns being alive. But because of reasons beyond any of our control, we got this shit instead. And to think it was all Chevy Chase's fault. I mean, wait.
It's
Blackface.
My name is David. Dad, I want some ice cream. David, that is my name. David, I want another. David, where is my ball? I'm running out on the road. There is a car. And this is going to hit me.
Oh my gosh, look, I'm outside at the outro bench like I always am. Okay, listen. I don't want to go outside. It is very cold, and I don't want to go outside. So this outro is not so much an outro, and it's basically me just combating hate comments that I would give to myself for this video. The first thing, the whole remaster thing, look, I can see the perspective of saying this is uncreative. In fact, I thought the very same thing as I was writing this video. But once I started actually filming and editing and just like putting the video together, this is a very different product from my old video. I've made my peace with it. If you haven't made your peace with it, I understand that, I guess. Like, this is the most transformative content I could have made from that video, but I guess that leads me to my second point. Is this video even good? Now that's a question I really can't answer because I have no clue how I feel about this video. I've been working on it about the same amount of time I've been working on all of my other videos, but this has been a very long, arduous, hard, grindy process. And it's just, I've spent so much time in the editor, I've spent so much time looking at my stupid fucking face. I don't know if the video is good anymore. I personally think it is okay. If you guys think it is bad, I'm genuinely sorry. I tried very hard, and if you guys just dislike it, I still see your judgment as valid, and I apologize. But don't fret, because there is another video coming out this month. I know on my Instagram I said I had canceled the other video coming out this month. Also follow my Instagram. I feel like every time I try to talk about Season 4, something goes wrong. I mean, in this video, my shitty laptop mic decided it was going to be the one to record. And the first time I tried to make a Season 4 video, it took 3 months, not just because I was lazy, although it was mostly that. And real quick, I did mention some articles, and just to do my due diligence, I am going to list all of those articles and the timestamps they are included at down below, because I am not a plagiarist. I mean, that's about it. If you liked this video, comment down below. If you didn't like it, actually comment down below and tell me what you didn't like about it. I want to know people's thoughts on this video. Thank you for making it to the end. Bye.